Out there, Falcons world, man. It's your boy Brody, your host of 95 North Falcons Talk Show. The 95 North Sports Machine is here, man. 8 o'clock prime time. Got my boy Smitty, my boy Chris, and our special guest, Daniel Flickar from Sports
Yes.
Illustrated, man. Daniel, how you doing tonight, man?
Oh, stellar. That has been, you know what? I've been trying to incorporate stellar into my vocabulary way more frequently now. I don't know why. I've just really been feeling it lately. So,
There you go.
yeah, pretty good, pretty stellar, if you will. And happy to be on here chopping it up with you guys.
No doubt. Smitty, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. Hey, Daniel, like I said, Tampa Bay game, man. I'm old. I totally slipped my mind, so I had to redeem myself. So welcome to the show, man.
Definitely,
Appreciate you. Glad to be
Chris, how
back.
you feeling, brother?
Oh man, every day is a great day, just depending on how you're looking at it and how you treat it, man. Glad to be sharing the platform with you guys again. And we have an accredited Falcons writer, man. Want to get his thoughts, Mr. Daniel Flick, man. Happy to have him here. Happy to all the chat, man. Shout out to the chat, of course, as always. And you already know, man, it's time to be generational because it's always time to be.
Yeah, but before that, man, let's get into that dope intro right quick.
Let's do it, man. You said
Mhm.
free. I'm gonna treat y'all to the dopest one out there right now. See y'all back in 20. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man. What's it? Week 10? Jesus. NFL
My
season
goodness.
is flying right by, man. Preview for the Cardinals and Falcons game this Sunday, 4 o'clock, man, from the desert, man. Before we get into that, quick roll call to the chat, man. William Amy's in the building. RJATL for life, the plug. What's going on? Our brother, Dwayne Ruffin, is in the building. Ty Dollar 496. Chet. You know what, Smitty, you're gonna have to help me on this one, man. Chet, who betcha? Didn't mean to butcher that. If I did, man. Play stats. Beautiful Miss Carrie's in the building. Dre, true statement. Trick 654.
Shit, you betcha. Okay.
There you go. Tony Wright, James Morton, Dre Murphy, what it do? Miss Francis Hunt Washington, how you doing this evening? Thank you to everybody that's popping in, man. We plan on giving you a great show tonight, man, previewing this Cardinals and Falcons game, Week 10, man. And we got a great guest, Daniel Flick. Great introduction, buddy. Oh, man, Week 10 in the NFL. Falcons sit at 4-5. Kind of parallel to what a lot of teams are doing around in the NFL. You know, we're sitting at 5-4, 4-5 range. A lot of teams are in that. You know, but for the Falcons, as talented as this roster is right now, offensively and defensively, to sit at 4-5, a lot of us Falcon fans really, it doesn't really sit right with us. So your quick thoughts on, you know, the Falcons 4-5 record and what's the light at the end of the tunnel right now for our beloved Atlanta Falcons, bro?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I believe the last 2 years they've been 4-5 at the same spot, and you spend, I think it was $190 million in the offseason, and you think surely they can't be 4-5 again, and they're 4-5 again. And so I tend to think that you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who would say that they aren't bummed out about the way this has gone. I think if you look at Arthur Smith and what he's saying and how he's saying it, he looks mentally exhausted to me. And it's been a trying season. I don't think this is really how anybody inside the organization thought it would play out. And just as far as having, you know, some QB controversy and having, you know, I think they've lost consecutive games now twice this year already. I believe they've lost 5 of their last 7. This is not when you start with as much energy as they had throughout the offseason, and then, you know, you kind of start 2-0, and it just felt like there was so much positive energy around the team. And now you've lost, as I said, 2 of your last 7. There's not a whole lot of positivity. You can tell they feel like they can get it going, and there's been a lot of guys in there who've said that they can. And so I think that light at the end of the tunnel, I think it was Johnny Smith Sunday was saying that there's so many teams in the NFL who are tightly packed together right now. I believe there's 10 teams either a game above, a game below, or right at 500, almost a third of the league. So again, the last 2 weeks or so, I feel like you kind of entered that territory of where teams start to separate. The Falcons are 0-2 in that stretch, but they're still right in that mix. And so I think if you're looking for that light, I kind of think you're looking at like, hey, you're still alive. There's a lot of other teams in the same position as you. And probably the brightest light is at the NFC South. Sorry, long day. NFC South is not exactly a great division right now, or not exactly playing football at a very high level. Even with, as I mentioned, 5 out of the last 7 games, you lost your game back in the South, and a very manageable schedule to close out the year. So there's a lot of optimism on that front. It's just, as Arthur Smith said today, can you capitalize? So I'm excited to kind of see if they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and optimism good to have. I'm gonna be real. But do you really trust the 4-5 team who's been on the downslide to me the last, like you said, the last 7 games? That's tough because where is this team mentally? That's what I want to see.
Right.
If they can get it back together mentally, I can trust them again. But as far as now, this should not feel like a trap game with a 1-18. But to me, the way they've been playing the last couple of weeks, don't get me wrong, the sack numbers up, which we like, but are those sacks really game changing and making, the game turn around for us? No, they're not. They're just, sacks here and there, to get us off the field, but they're not game changing. That's what they need. They need game changing plays. And to be honest, this team, like I said I'm gonna do my 3 keys to victory, and I'm gonna just give y'all one of them. This game is gonna be who runs the football, who wins field position, and who chews up the most clock, because both of these teams are top 10 running the football. So that lets me know that this game, they say it feel like the Super Bowl. I see somebody in the chat say it better feel like the Super Bowl, because if it's not, then you don't have that feeling to go out and win it like it's the Super Bowl. Your coach gonna be on the unemployment line by the time we come back out the bye week. I'm gonna just be real,
man.
Heck yeah, man. Because before Sunday, man, you already know we was content. We were still division leaders. The NFC South is weak. And don't get me wrong, we still have everything in front of us. Like, the season is not over at week 10. But in fans' minds, it's all about, can the coach get it done? Because let's just backtrack a little bit. Now, we already know what happened with Will Levis and Tennessee. We already know what happened with that 4 touchdowns rookie record. Oh, my goodness, why it had to happen to us. Next thing you know, you have Josh Dobbs, who was pretty much exiled in Arizona. He was already on the bench before he got traded. He was already on the bench before he got traded. Then next thing you know, you have Arthur Smith, how he's secretive and talking about variables and all this thing like that. He has this attitude in these press conferences, and fans are not feeling it. He's not really being transparent with the fan base at all. Then Dobbs again gets out the bed, beats your team, and makes your offense. Well, it makes the things that Arthur Smith was saying about learning the offense, it makes it seem like it was all a lie. It makes it seem like he doesn't know what he's doing, because you got a guy who got there 3 days before the game, didn't even know the playbook, and went out and beat your team. So it just makes your fans don't believe in your coach. So I just got to see what happens, man. I believe.
And to be honest, he did it to himself, because, as I said before, 7-10 the last 2 seasons, you raised the goal on yourself, because this team is 3 times better than any team we've had since 2017. Let's be real, talent wise. So you put that bar up so high till you can't reach it. So now, hey, your job in jeopardy. Let's be real. Go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah, just to bring it back a little bit, Daniel, can you assess right quick, or tell us in your best words, Taylor Heinicke's performance from last week, under his offense, him running the offense, the Falcons scored the highest point output of the year with 28 points, really limited to only one mistake quarterback wise, and that's that costly INT, late in the game, as of course he's was caught staring down, or the route concept was just in an area of blunder there. There was 3 defenders there, shouldn't have thrown that ball. He relatively really had a clean pocket all game, so he had enough time to really, just sit in there and make the decisive throws. But what can you say about Taylor Heinicke's performance from Sunday?
Yeah, I want to say one of the underrated aspects of that is that he didn't have Drake London to work with. And I don't think a lot of people have really put that into the equation yet. And so with London practicing today, trending in the right direction to play on Sunday, I think that would be that would be a big help for him. And again, if you're trying to get an accurate evaluation of if Heineke can lead your offense for the rest of the year, it's kind of important to know that how he can play with your top receiver actually in the fold. And so I think that's an important place to start in the evaluation. My personal evaluation, I didn't think that what he brought was anything overly special or overly new from what we saw with Ritter for the first 8 games of the year. My personal belief with it, and this is just, we talked off air about, some of the coverage I've had this year with IU football, is they've alternated quarterbacks the whole year, and it's been extremely painful to watch.
Right.
The way Ritter was trending, I believe he was averaging 297 passing yards in his 3 games prior to that first half in Tennessee, playing at a high level, seeing the field at a high level. You've got the turnovers, but he was making, I believe, his 12th career start, in Tennessee. These are growing pains for a young quarterback, and he was showing that he could legitimately produce. Now, that being said, he had to be better. The Falcons weren't putting up points. I believe they were 28th in the league in his 8 starts in points. And so you do need change. I'm not sure that what we saw from Heineke on Sunday inspired confidence that he can provide the change that's needed. You mentioned, Alberto, the points. I think that's obviously very important. Not obviously, but I mean, it's the process behind getting there was not exactly new. The red zone troubles that were there still existed. The turnover troubles. Heineke had the 1 interception. He had a couple others that were very close. So to me, I don't really think there was anything he provided that was like legitimately would have changed the picture for really the Falcons offense for the remainder of the season.
Right.
Yeah, and I agree with that red zone assessment because if you in shotgun on the 1 yard line, that is a problem. You throwing a halfback pass with the tight end, that's a problem. So it's all about scheming in the red zone. And to be honest, why you just don't run your 2 running backs until they get into the end zone? You have 2 playmakers at running back. I just don't get it. To be honest, you got 3 at running back because you got to add in Cordero Patterson as well. If you got all 3 of those guys on the field at the same time inside the 5 to 10 yard line, who are they going to game plan for to stop? They can't stop all 3 of them. So, some things are just common sense. Stop overthinking and just simplify things.
That's all you got to do sometimes, man. Just simplify it. Because in the red zone, we're in the bottom of the league now. Like, as far as red zone scoring, we're in the bottom of the league, I believe, 30th, 29th, somewhere. Bad. Let's just say that. Bad.
So we brought that up in the press conference, but he didn't say it was my fault. He just said we got to do better. He got to do better.
So on 28 trips to the red zone, the Falcons 14 of those 28 attempts at 50%, in which this opens up the conversation, the very important conversation, the Bijan Robinson situation. What's going on with the rookie phenom, 8th overall pick? We saw so much success early on in the year, 53 carries, 318 yards in the first 4 games. The last 5 games, 50 carries, only 199 yards. So what's the disconnect that you can say, Daniel, if there is one, with Bijan Robinson? And as much as people don't like to talk about it, man, the rookie wall is a very real thing. So can you, speak on that with the whole Bijan Robinson situation or his implementation in the offense?
Yeah, I think so. After week 3, week 4, Arthur mentioned in one of his press conferences about trying to kind of help Bijan not take as many hits. And I think
I remember that.
I think this is kind of the same problem that Arthur has been having, trying to balance Kyle Pitts and Drake London obviously last year. And then kind of with Pitts and a few of the other options that Atlanta's had the past few years as well, just trying to make sure that you're not locking in on those guys, and then you end up getting to the point where they're not the focal piece that they should be. Now with Bijan, I think it's important to note that if you take away that game in Tampa, I believe, right, where he was sick, you take that away at 49 carries in 4 games, which is just, I think, 4 carries short of what he had the first 4 weeks. So usage wise, not a huge gap, but I do think the way that he's been used, I don't think they've put as much of an emphasis on putting him in space lately, which I think is an area I would certainly change. And I think the other aspect of that, John, The rookie wall, I think, is definitely a thing, but I think Atlanta's offensive line has also not exactly been what it was last year. Run blocking, I think it's made strides pass blocking, but run blocking, I think, has not exactly been a strength. Tyler Algier is averaging, I believe, 0.4 yards before he gets hit, which you can't have that. So I tend to think it's a combination of things. I think Bijan, you're still seeing flashes when he gets the ball of why everybody thinks of him as so special and so talented. So I don't necessarily think it's on him as much as what he has to work with. Arthur tried to say earlier this week that he's still on pace to have however many yards, like 1,400 all-purpose yards, which would set Falcons record for rookie all-purpose yards. But again, he was on pace for about 1,900 after the first 2 or 3 weeks. So I just think it's the usage and the pieces around Bijan and not as much actually about Bijan.
Yeah, for those that are wondering, he's currently, I believe, at 714 all-purpose yards right now between receiving and rushing. As you were
still not being used on the goal line. 18 offensive plays inside the 5-yard line this season. Bijan, 1 touch, no game. What the hell?
But yeah, man. But like Daniel said, man, it's just gonna come down to how you use them. Now, I'm trying to figure out which running back are you gonna make the main guy. And I know sometimes it's running back by committee, but you need to commit to one guy and make that guy the focal point. Because flip-flopping at certain points of the game, I think that's a mistake. Because what if Bijan starts the game off fight, you take him out for Tyler Algier, then he goes ice cold, and then it's a problem. But Daniel, he made the best point of all when you talk about space. Bijan Robinson in space is a dynamic athlete. So that means you need to get him out on screen plays, get him out on quick slants at the receiver position. Here, you can throw those more wheel routes. We've seen how successful that's been. So you just got to find more ways to use Bijan. You took him 8th overall, so you put yourself in that predicament. So now that you have a running back at 8th overall, you got to use him.
Yeah, I ain't seen a quick slant with Bijan since like the Packers game. They're not using him.
So that leads into a different discussion. That means somebody that would be drawing up the plays for Arthur, and Dave Ragone is known to do that, and he's been very popular within the chat right now, man, as the first possible scapegoat in this Arthur Smith regime. What can you say about Dave Ragone and what seems to be, for us fans, shortcomings in this whole entire Falcons offense? What does he actually do, Daniel? What do you know about Dave Ragone that can help us understand this man's situation a little bit better?
Yeah, it's funny.
Besides order DoorDash, tell us something different.
Gosh. Gotta stop. Man. Continue, Mr. Flip.
Ragone has been kind of vague about his specific role historically. My understanding of it is that he helps design some of the passing concepts, but again, and then of course he helps with some of the scripting throughout the week as well. It's kind of his main priority, that, and then he works with the QBs as well throughout the week too. So that's kind of, he also typically is the main guy on the sideline, kind of rewatching live footage, live film, and helping with the in-game adjustments, I do believe. So that's kind of the main role. He definitely has been a bit of a scapegoat in all of this because his role is not exactly as impactful as, say, Arthur Smith, for example. So it is kind of interesting for me to see the way that he has been kind of thrown completely out the window. But I get it. I totally get it. And I think it's, when you have an offense that's supposed to be, as proven that it can move the football at a very high level. There was a stretch earlier this year when Atlanta had 400 plus yards in 3 straight games for the first time since 2018. So they're proving that they have the talent. They've proven they can move the football. Can't finish drives. And so at the end of the day, when you can't score, there's so many internal questions that you got to ask. I'm not sure Ragone is necessarily the guy leading the charge of, or should be the guy that people are running after with pitchforks. But again, some of what he's doing, I tend to think there's been an overall lack of creativity at various points in the year, especially I feel like red zone, they get caught in between trying to be overly creative and then trying to just run it right down your throat. And actually, historically, they've just had more success just running it. I mean, we saw that last drive on Sunday. And I think they're just kind of stuck in that balance and they can't really figure it out. And so I get it. I understand all the hate, but I don't really think Ragone is the right guy to shoulder as much of the blame as a lot of people are right now.
Right.
Valid.
I got a question. Let's talk about Mr. Joker, the Joker role. Recently he was talking about, hey, let's not forget, I do this. Whoever needs to know. I'm just trying to figure out, is his gripe valid, considering the fact that we did draft Bijan Robinson and he was going to take some snaps from CP?
Yeah, it's funny to watch Cordero play football nowadays and some of the cuts he's making. I remember seeing a joke on Twitter I think it was maybe the Houston game, and it was comparing him like an old school dinosaur, trying to watch him make cuts. And now, again, I think Cordero's primary value on this team will still always be as a returner. But again, I still think he's proven a few weeks ago in Tampa, when Robinson was out in Tampa, he proved he can still play at a high level.
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes back to the Bijan debate. If you got to find ways to get your playmakers the ball in space, and it feels like they're just not doing that with CP. They're not doing that with Bijan. They're not doing that at that extent that they should. And again, CP, even if he's a little bit slower than maybe he once was with a few of his cuts, I still think he's proven that, again, because he's still powerful, he's still athletic. Once he gets rolling a little bit, he can still move it. So I think his gripe is fair, but at the same time, the talent the Falcons have offensively, I'm not sure how you could see CP higher than about 5th in that pecking order. So that being said, there's still an argument for him to get 5 touches a game, and he's proven that he can provide value with 5 touches a game. So if you're looking for a spark, I think he's proven he has the talent and the playmaking to actually provide that spark. So we'll see how they kind of provide that moving forward. We'll see if his public comments have any effect on that. I tend to think probably not. But again, I think there is value in letting him touch the football. So I'd like to see that change at least a little bit, if only by a couple touches a game. I do think he is worthy of that role.
And he has a great. I think, I just think he does, because that Tampa Bay game, that was the perfect blueprint going forward on how to use the running backs. Bijan Robinson only got 1 carry that game, but if you build a run game that way where you have those 2 big bruises to wear down the defense, I think that opens up everything for Bijan, whether it's running the ball out the backfield or catching the ball out the backfield. Because guess what? When you bruising and beating up a defensive line, they're going to push them on their heels the further along you get in the game. So that's when you attack. So if they were to implement that in their game plan weekly, I think they'd be fine, man, because like I said, man, you take a running back number 8, you got to get him in the end zone. He only had 1 rushing touchdown. Yes. That just doesn't make sense for a guy that dynamic. Doesn't make sense.
No.
So they just got a game plan better, man, as to how to use all 3 of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Do you sometimes wonder that the Falcons are, and this might sound like totally left field, but we're blessed with so many pieces. Is it hard for a coach to implement all of these players and their skill sets into an offense? So you got to, and once you break it down, Jonnu Smith is now carving a role in this offense. Don't forget, we got Kyle Pitts. Oh, we also have Drake London and a 3-headed back monster on offense. So how does that present a challenge for a coach week in and week out to implement these guys? And I heard from Coach Smith's presser earlier today that he has incorporated everybody, but it's just hard to see where that incorporation has come, because at some point it doesn't look like one player sticks out more than another. He's playing it very, very balanced, but is it too much for a coach at times to have so much skill set on an offensive team like the Falcons? What can you say to that, Daniel?
Yeah, I think so. But at the same token, I think you look at Miami and you see the playmakers that they have, and you see the way that they've been able to kind of balance that, and you say, hey, why can't the Falcons do that? Can you attribute that to
Mike LaFleur being a more competent and a more elite play caller, knowing that, you know, he does come from that Shanahan tree, so to say.
McDaniel.
So, you know, McDaniel, sorry. So you see, he comes from that tree, and you see what Shanahan is doing and what he's going to continue to do in this league. He's left so much of a blueprint for other teams to mimic that it's just, you know, it's hard. It's hard to mimic, in other words. But Arthur Smith in this offense just doesn't seem to know how to use these guys the right way. But like you were saying to Miami before I interjected, please continue.
Yeah, no, it's been a very hot topic for years with Arthur Smith about utilization. You guys mentioned Robinson with 1 rushing touchdown. We all remember all the Kyle Pitts conversations about his rookie year, his touchdowns. Drake London, same deal last year, even with Ritter at the end of the year when he was, I believe he was on pace in that 4-game stretch. He was on pace to hit about 400 yards, I want to say, 0 touchdowns. So, but yeah, it is challenging. It is challenging for sure. And I think it's something he's got to figure out. I think it's something he's been wrestling with internally, and I think he's struggling with it. And I think he would be upfront with you about that. You look at the Falcons' target list, and you're going to see that, like, big picture, they've found ways to kind of balance that. But as you guys were saying, I think it was Smitty was saying earlier, that you look at it and it's like nobody's really having this breakout game, this breakout year. You might have one game. I think London had a 125-yard game a few weeks ago. Yeah. You look at that, you're like, oh, he can do that. He can do that. Kyle Pitts can. I believe Kyle Pitts in his career has about 5 or 6 100+ or 80+ yard receiving games. The Falcons are undefeated. I'm not sure
they have 3 for 100 and 5 for 80.
5 for 80.
Right.
5 for 80. Yeah, and I believe the Falcons are 5-0 in those games that he's caught. That he has over 80 receiving yards. They are undefeated when he produces at a certain, I believe it's 90 yards. I had that tweet last year, and then he pretty much has hit it like 1 time since then, which kind of speaks to the way that he's been utilized. So
exactly. The lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely frustrating. I'm sure it's frustrating for Arthur because, again, you have so much talent. Why isn't it clicking? And again, part of this too, and he's been very transparent about this, is he calls plays for these guys to, especially in the passing game, and it's covered. And naturally, you look to other options, and that's when you get Matt Collins in a 1-on-1, and you throw to Matt Collins. You know, and you're not going to blame the quarterback for throwing to Matt Collins in that situation. So I think some of it's kind of out of his control, but on a bigger picture, when you put a priority on putting the ball in those guys' hands, you're going to find a way to be more successful. And so I think that's kind of, to answer the broader picture, yeah, I think it's a challenge. And I would also concur that Arthur is not exactly succeeding at that challenge right now. And I think he would admit that as well.
And I'm going to tell you, the reason why I know he can't handle all this talent, when Jonathan Smith is your leading receiver, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
You got a first-round wide receiver, first-round tight end, and a first-round running back, and a 7th-round pick trade is your top receiver. Just make it make sense.
Familiarity. You're just familiar with John.
Right. Right.
Well, speaking of certain successes, one thing that, you know, we're not accustomed to seeing as all Falcon fans, and that's having a competent or an elite style defense, as the Falcons host a top 10 defense, and they're only 2 sacks shy from totaling all of last year's. Yep. Currently, we sit at 19. 21 was the total last year. Flick, man, that you put out a great little piece earlier today on Contavia Street, what he did in Philly and what he did in one game versus the Falcons. Now, you want to talk about a breath of fresh air and a great change of scenery. This guy came from Philly, fresh legs, haven't really got any playing time because of Philly's incredible depth over there. But he comes to the Falcons. Can you see Contavia Street, being an X factor for this Falcons defensive line moving forward?
Yeah, I think X factor is a good term, but I think it's important to take that within the perspective of he's not going to directly replace what Jarrett brought to Atlanta's defensive line. So I think on a broader picture, they were never going to be able to replace him, and they knew that. And so I think Street at best can kind of help to mitigate that loss. And I think he did a really good job of mitigating that loss on Sunday. But again, on a broader picture, it's kind of it's a tough position because there's no real way that you can actually improve after you lose a guy like Jarrett and all that he meant as a leader, all that he meant on the field, just with the way that he could condense pockets was so valuable too. And him and Onyemata were having so much success together rushing. And so I think Street proved productive. He was very productive. He got the job done. And I think if he can keep on producing at a similar clip, the Falcons won't exactly be completely. I'll say they're not going to be completely damaged as much as a lot of people thought when Jarrett went down for the year. And so if you can mitigate that loss at that extent, the way that Street did on Sunday, it's only going to help. I think the big question for Atlanta's defense is they were top 5 in some of those categories, and then they play 2 rookie quarterbacks making their first career start and a guy in Josh Dobbs who had 5 days with the playbook, and you give up 57 points. How does that happen?
Right.
And so I think that's the big question that you have to ask. And I think you look at it and it's been different things in each game. I think in that Tennessee game, a lot of people point to that offensive pass interference with Hopkins, but even then, that's one play. Will Levis still threw 3 more touchdowns in that game. And I think the secondary in general has been a little bit more leaky of late than I think you would prefer. I still think Atlanta really misses Troy Anderson, especially on third down. That's kind of – I think Landman's been phenomenal on early downs. Third down, I think you really miss having Troy Anderson's size. And I believe he ran a 4.42, and that's very valuable in that situation. So it's things of that nature, and you reach a point where you start to think about the guys that they've lost, and you lose a starting linebacker. You lose arguably your best defensive lineman, who's really the heart and soul of your entire defense.
There you go. That's
2 key pieces right up the middle, and it's kind of hard to completely replace that. So they've managed well. Ryan Nielsen, I think of him in a very high regard, and I think there's a very strong chance he's a head coach someday. But I do think Atlanta really has to find a way to return to some of those levels that they were at 2 or 3 weeks ago, which is only going to be more challenging now when you have Jarrett no longer in the mix.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think Troy Anderson not being injured is a blessing, but to see what Nate Landman can do, I think going forward and going into next year, I think Troy Anderson and Berto said it last year.
Yeah.
I think Troy Anderson turned into an edge rusher next year because of their speed, because of the athleticism. You got to keep Nate Landman in the starting lineup now that he's taking over. You can't take him out because the way I look at it, man. Right. The way I look at it, man, it was a blessing in disguise. So,
that's a different perspective, man. Because it's definitely, it was a tough loss just even losing him, just like Daniel was saying, losing that size right up the middle, just for him before Grady. So, yeah, I can definitely see him being that edge if we don't go, target an edge somewhere in the draft, free agency, everything like that.
I think they will. Because
I do too.
You got Lorenzo Carter on a 2-year deal, and you still got Malone and Ebiketie on rookie deals. So yeah, they have to.
Players may or may not be gone. We'll see.
Right.
Absolutely. So switching gears, breaking down this Cardinals-Falcons game as we have, spoken a little bit briefly on there. As we mentioned, Kyler Murray is going to return barring any setbacks this Sunday. Becomes another threat for the Falcons defense, to try and contain. And you was mentioning this off air, Daniel. It's a guy that's coming back, but he's not in sync with this playbook. He's not in sync with his coaching staff as he's been out. But you can't imagine that we may see some of Kyler Murray's brilliance from early on, because of his athletic ability and his ability to throw the ball. I think that he is going to pose some threat this week, especially if he comes back. Hollywood Brown comes into question. I know they had a decent connection. They get James Conner back, I believe, too. Yeah. And the way the Falcons' run defense has played, in recent weeks, there is some leaks within that defensive scheme up front to stop the run that, can favor Arizona. So your thought right quick on Kyler Murray's possible return on this Sunday's game against the Falcons.
Yeah. My first thought directly is that Kyler Murray can run, and Josh Dobbs had a field day running the football out of structure, off script on Sunday. And so I tend to think that'll be a very big area of focus this week in practice. And I'm very excited and eager to see how they adjust to that. Because realistically, when you think about NFL mobile quarterbacks, Kyler Murray is one of the very first names who really pops up in your mind. And so he's going to test you with that. With his knee, we'll see how willing he is to run. We'll see how much they try to incorporate his legs more, on script. I think that'll be kind of – I'm eager to watch that play out because we really don't know. We don't know how they're going to use him. We don't know how if he's at full health. I would assume if he's not at full health, he's very close to it because they don't really have much of a reason to rush him back. But again, is he rusty? Is he completely up to speed with all of his wideouts? How in tune is he there? We're gonna find out. And so it's hard to just come in the way that Josh Dobbs did last Sunday. When you think about all the talk about preseason play at quarterback, things of that nature, and then you see Josh Dobbs come in 5 days and play how he did. It's everybody kind of you're not gonna have the same reaction. So like from player to player. So Kyler, I think that's going to be the way that he plays will ultimately probably determine the outcome of Sunday's game. And so I think it really a lot of that. I think Kyler is probably the main X factor here because he could legitimately be nowhere close to the level that he's proven he can be,
right? Or
he could be the same Kyler, if not better than what he was when we've seen him at his peak. And so I'm eager to see that play out. I think it's. Again, you go from facing a 5th or 6th round quarterback who just got shut out 27-0 to facing a complete question mark at quarterback who could legitimately be really good. So that's going to end up being the biggest question for me. I tend to lean more towards the fact that Kyler's a little bit more ready, but I think you're probably going to see a little bit. I think it'll take him a drive or two to actually find it. So I'm curious to see how that plays out.
That's facts, man. And I said this also in my 3 key to victory. You're just gonna have to keep him inside the pocket and close those passing lanes because he's 5 foot, 5'9" and a half, 5'10". He need a booster seat to see over the line. But as I look at it, man, the way he uses his legs and the way that they probably would use him. I think it boosts their running game even more. And like I said earlier, man, they 8th in the league in running. So you add Kyler Murray, that takes their offense to another level running the football. James Conner has been out. Right, he's been out with injury. So, I mean, Kyler Murray just to keep to the game, just like Daniel said. If you can shut down Kyler Murray, you're going to shut down the Arizona Cardinals. But you got to outthink their offensive coordinator because I'm going to be real. Last week with Minnesota, Josh Dobbs, everything they did it on the fly. And as the game went on, they just started using his talents. They just stopped calling plays. He started using his legs more. So they just did it on the fly. And I think they do the same with Kyler Murray this week. So just keep an eye out for that.
You got to be careful. Got to be careful with Kyler Murray. He's definitely more athletic than Josh Dobbs. So containment is even more important. And the Arizona Cardinals, they were watching that game. They're looking at that film. And they're seeing exactly what Josh did to us. And, of course, they're going to open up the playbook and then let Kyler be Kyler. I mean, why wouldn't you after seeing that on film last week against the Vikings? So, yeah, man, we got to have containment. Containment is going to be the best recipe for success for the Atlanta Falcons. And like Smitty said, man, closing off those passing lanes. It's going to be very critical. This feels like a trap game, like the ultimate trap game, because it's a 1-18, and it's a quarterback and a running back that's possibly going to be back that you have no idea what you're getting. You have no idea.
And to another point, too, this is a Cardinals team that got shut out by Cleveland last week. So you know they're going to be playing in front of that home crowd with a little extra pep in their step. You know what I mean? And I think that they can come in and give us, some fits off, defensively. With their defense trying to stop our offense. I say that because Jonathan Gagnon, of course, was the defensive coordinator for Philly last year, first year head coach with the Arizona Cardinals. So that defensive background, of course, is very heavy. The Cardinals do a good job of mixing up some schemes and how to get their pressure. They really don't have a household name. Maybe you can say Xavier Collins. They have 25 sacks on year so far, and they might be licking their chops as this game. I'm like, all right, wait, we can get to Atlanta. Atlanta has only allowed 2 sacks the last 2 weeks, and things have differed because of quarterback play, of course. But I think ultimately Atlanta has to establish and go back to what they do best, and that's running the football in order to neutralize, somewhat of Arizona's potential pass rush. Find your true identity and get it going. You got to go back to what has worked before to put NFL teams back on alert and say, okay, the Falcons are that team running the ball. So it can open up passing plays, and maybe we can see the best of Taylor Heineke get it done.
Yeah.
Oh, man, maybe we can see the best of Taylor Heineke in this offense. I mean, because I don't think at this point now you can look back at Desmond Ridder and say, okay, you're going to start, after the bye going against the Saints. If Taylor comes in and he proves that he can operate this offense a little bit better, I can see Taylor the quarterback the rest of the way, and Desmond probably won't see the field again for the 2023 season. But that's my take on what I feel like Arizona can do. I think defensively they might be in play to give us some fits and really make our going into the bye week a little bit miserable, as some will say. So, Chris, what's your thoughts on this good old trap game like you just called it? What do you see Arizona posing as a threat for our Falcons in this Sunday's matchup?
Well, one thing, just because they're always reeling as far as like the defense. The defense are bottom in the league as far as everything, but they have some tacklers. What I believe his name is Kaiser White. He has like 76 tackles or something like that for them. So their linebacker core, so they can kind of get after it. But this game right here is a trap. It feels like a trap game. Like I said, man, it has way more traps in it than an Acme bag. And I definitely feel like, though, we can move the ball. We should be able to move the ball against them. We should be able to have an offense that is competent. Whether Drake London is there or not, I still feel like we should be able to move the ball against these guys because we have the talent. I feel like we should get Kyle Pitts involved a little bit more, especially if Drake is coming back and he's still ginger with the groin injury. Get Kyle Pitts involved. Get Kadero Hodge involved as well because he's been coming on of late for the Atlanta Falcons. So, man, we have weapons. This should not be a problem for us, but it just feels very, very I'm very nervous going into the game. Let's just say that. I'm very nervous about going into the game, guys. What about you, Smitty?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I seen somebody put it in the chat. Going to this game, the confidence I have, I put it halfway at about 5, and that's only because we have an inconsistent play caller, poor scheming, and they just have trouble moving the ball at times. What would boost that up if the defense carries us? That means forcing turnovers. I can see that this game with Kyler being rusty, coming back out the year off due to a knee injury. I think they can force a couple of turnovers in this game to change the momentum in this game at some point. So going into this game, I would have to say a 5, only because of inconsistent play calling. But we have enough power on offense for it to be a 9 or a 10. Just the play call is, inconsistent.
Uncle Buck 71 says 1. I'm trying to tell you, the fan base, man, we feeling real nervous, man. We feeling real shaky about this Arizona game.
If he had a 1, that means he ain't gonna turn the TV
on. Shout out Uncle Steve here from Uncle Steve's Lounge, folks. Man, another great. Everybody's favorite uncle. First,
that's facts, though. That is facts.
Favorite uncle. He spearheads one of the better podcasts out there. Monday Minutia, the Sunday Brunch. Man, you name it, he's got it. Uncle Steve's Lounge on YouTube. Make sure you give him a follow, a sub, and a like, man, and that good old subscription to his channel, to his platform. He says, "What's up, fellas? With all due respect to Chris, you can't have a trap game at a 4-5 record on a 2-game losing streak. Treat this game and all the rest as a must-win or Super Bowl, as Taylor Heineke put pressure on us to win this week. No gimme games left." And he has a point. Right after the bye, who do we have? We have the New Orleans Saints, man. A divisional game. It's going to be an important game, and whatever way this Sunday shapes out for the Vikings, we could go in after the bye as a winner. Winner takes the lead of the NFC South again. So. Indeed. Yeah, valid point. Appreciate your comment there to Uncle Steve, man. As we go. So leads us into our X factors for the game. Daniel, who could you give us as your X factor for this Falcons game on Sunday?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think Kyler Murray is the overall X factor in the game. But I will take the Atlanta angle here. I think Drake London is probably the main X factor. And I think it really extends beyond this game. And again, kind of as I was mentioning earlier, if you're going to fairly evaluate Taylor Heineke, I think you need to see him with his top weapon. And so if London's not available to play and Heineke kind of has another up and down game, you don't fully know what you have. And I think with London being such an integral, I mean, he's like with 8 games, he missed last game and he's still the Falcons' leading receiver in targets, receptions, yards, you name it, he's there. So you don't have him, changes things for you. And so I think that if you don't have London in the mix, then you're not going to really get a full picture of what Heineke can do. And so I think if you're trying to evaluate the QB position, not only for obviously this game, but for the rest of the year, and if you're legitimately serious about trying to make a playoff push, you kind of have to know what you have. And so naturally with London as well, it's you want to have your top receiver available. We'll see if he plays. I think he will play. But I think on a broader scale, he's the X factor for this game because I legitimately think it's important for Heineke to have him available so that Atlanta can have a full representative picture of what Heineke can do.
I'm going to go with my quick X factor for this game. And this one, he's been picked on so much, but I'm going to say Richie Grant is the X factor in this game. You got a Kyler Murray that's coming back. So he's going to be now able to, if he plays, going to be able to, stretch the field somewhat, with some passes. He has good rapport with Marquise Brown or Hollywood Brown. So it's going to be interesting. And I know they're going to probably challenge the Atlanta Falcons deep in this game. I thought that Richie Grant broke out in that Tampa Bay game. I know, getting that interception, late in the game, and he looked good that game overall. But then you can go back and say he's regressed in that Tennessee game and in last week's game. So, and then for the Falcons to go into a bye and evaluations are going to happen, does Richie, if he has a bad game, go into the New Orleans game, the starter at strong safety for the Falcons? I know the Falcons have activated Micah Abernathy, who played really well in the preseason, and not to mention the young DeMarco Hellams, who's waiting in the wings also to make a splash. He's dealing with his own little injuries now, but this game right here, I think is pivotal and very important for Richie Grant to really say, okay, I got this. I am your guy at this position. Look no further. But my X factor for this game is Richie Grant.
That's a good one. I think I'm going to go Bijan Robinson. It's really because of what I said earlier. You got to put the football in his hands. This is the perfect game. We all know, like I said, they're 8th against the run. But you got to use your offensive line and push these guys off the line. You got to enforce your will. And Bijan Robinson, you got to let him carry. You got to, put the ball in his hands, receiving wise. So I think this is the game. This could be the game where I see him take over in the red zone. Because like I said, they got to get the ball in the end zone. Field goals, that's okay, but touchdowns count more. And as I read something today, Younghoe Koo has more points than 8 NFL quarterbacks. That's a bad sign. That is a bad sign.
It's like good for Younghoe, bad for the Atlanta Falcons, because that means you ain't scoring touchdowns.
Right. So use those weapons, man. But Bijan, this has to be his coming out game. It has to be. Against a 1-8 team, y'all got to treat them like they 1-8.
Right. Chris?
Well, my X factor, man, I'm going to go with the guy who has just been unutilized, but we've talked about him. And that's Kyle Pitts, man. I'm going to go Kyle Pitts. We need to get him in space. He's a matchup nightmare. We need to get him receptions. He's only had 5 receptions or more in only 2 games this season. Only over 80 yards, 1 game this season. It's time to get the man involved a little bit more. It's time to get him a few more receptions. And I believe this is a game where you can do it against a defense that is bottom of the league. I understand about they have a great defensive coordinator and / head coach, but you can still get him in space because he's going to be a matchup nightmare. The only person that possibly could even do anything with him may be Buda Baker. But you can put him in space. You can put him in different positions and get him the football. He's going to be important, especially with Drake London coming back with a ginger injury. He's going to come back. He's going to have Kendra Hodge. but you got to get Kyle Pitts in this game. This needs to be a Kyle Pitts game for me as well, and get him in the red zone. He only has one red zone touchdown as well. So now all this game against the Commanders.
And to add on to what you're saying with him, he's actually ahead of his pace that he was last year stats wise. So that's
he definitely is.
So this could be
389 to 356.
Mm-hmm. Got a quick super chat here from Quishawn Brown, $9.99. Thank you so much for donating to the stream. We really appreciate that. Goes on to say, I think the X factor is inside linebackers because they have to get sideline to sideline, and that proves to be true. You know, we have the unknown is if Kyler Murray starts, but I'm guessing 99% of that is that he is going to start. So these linebackers, Caden Ellis and Nate Landman, have their work cut out, especially if they draw some type of assignment in a spy position, or just if he breaks containment. Those guys are on the island there having to try and tackle a guy with his speed and his athleticism. So shout out to Quishawn Brown, man. Appreciate the donation, appreciate the comment, and respect the X Factor value that you just mentioned.
Indeed.
Right quick, we have a fan in here, Camarian Giles or Gillies. Saints own y'all. Man, save that for some other time. We're in the new year. We haven't played yet, so time will tell. And if that say that at the end of the year, just
go on put that gift up there. You already know. Go on put it up there. Go on put it up there. So you know what? You gotta.
Bang!
Get your
ass up out of here, Mr. Saints fan. Ain't no room for y'all up in here. God damn
no room for y'all.
We are very in living color in this thing here. But we're gonna go to the ever so important game prediction, and this is a portion of the show. We invite the fans to give us their prediction for Sunday's matchup. Daniel, since you're the guest, please tell us, man. Give us the good news. What is your game prediction for this Sunday?
Yeah, I'll go Atlanta 27-20. 27-20.
27-20. Wow.
So you see points being scored in this game. That's interesting.
They scored 28 last time out. I'm going to say that they find a way to score 27 this time against on paper anyways, worst team. It's Heineke's second start. And then okay, so I was going to say 28. I was going to say 28-17. And then I was like, that'd be 4 touchdowns. Potentially. It wasn't 4 touchdowns on Sunday. But hypothetically, if it's an average 28, like a routine 28, it's probably 4 touchdowns. I'm not sure the Falcons can actually finish 4 drives with what they've shown so far. So I like 21 or 27. Right. I'm sorry, 27. 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals. I like that. I like that number. I'm going to go 27-20.
Okay.
That's a good one. Since my confidence level is that high, and like I said, both of these teams run the ball very well. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I think the game will be over at 2:45.
God damn,
2:45.
I'm gonna say 17-14 Falcons. My confidence ain't that high, but I get them to a 3-point win, and Young Way Cool rescues them again. So I go 17-14.
Mm-hmm. Chris?
Well, I'm going to go with the guy who can outscore quarterbacks. He's going to definitely be a focal point in this game. I definitely believe he's going to have his fingerprints on this game as well.
God damn, RJ.
I'm going to go. What in the heck?
Oh,
Lord, we hope not. What you want to talk about?
If they can score that game, man, Arthur Smith gonna be in the unemployment line by Monday.
My goodness. But now, seriously though, I'm going to rock with 19-13 Falcons. 19-13 Falcons. That's it for me.
That's fair. I'm going to go 28-24 Falcons, and, high scoring game. The Falcons, the last couple games on the road, have given up points. Well, the Falcons defense have given up points in that mid-20 range. So it's only fair that they're on the road. History may repeat itself. So I'll go 28-24 us Falcons.
Like it.
That's fair. That's fair.
We have about 5 more minutes left in the show, so if you guys have questions for Daniel, please drop them in the comments. But Daniel, I have a quick question for you and your honest opinion. Man, how do I paint this picture? We lose on Sunday. We go into the bye. Do the Falcons make a head coaching change during the bye?
I'd be very surprised. I would be very, very surprised, actually. So, the gist that I got in the offseason in particular, I haven't really heard anything new about this, but the offseason gist was that, man, that's a tough day to be that water bottle. Anyways,
I'm trying to tell you.
God damn, bro.
Hey, boy, I had to take a deep breath
Got that
in, boy.
but yeah,
man.
the off-season gist is that it was going to take a literal disaster, like not 4-6 disaster, like 4-13 disaster or 3-14 to get Smith actually on the hot seat. So I would be surprised if they let him go at 4-6. I think that would be that'd be a very, very new approach from Arthur Blank, and it'd be a very.
So you don't think he on the hot seat?
I think his seat's getting mildly. It's warmer than it was in August. I'll tell you that much. It's warmer than it was in August, but I don't think it's like flaming hot. I'd be very surprised if it was. I could be wrong. They're very reserved about that. But my personal belief is that the Falcons are going to be way more patient than a lot of people think they are. In large part because they entered this year a lot more confident in Smith and Fontenot than what a lot of people thought they probably were. So. I don't think he's as close to being fired as a lot of people think that he probably is.
Then we got to remember,
man,
he doesn't just jump off the ship like that with his coaches and players and everything too. So you got to remember a creature of habit as well too.
But you gotta think at this point, man. Going back to Dan Quinn, man, I think he stayed 2 years too long, and I don't see him making that mistake again. Because, like I said, he reached the ceiling in the Super Bowl. And next year he got back to the playoff, but the team wasn't playing the same. And every year after that, it was just downhill, and I don't see that happening again. So before they go that route again, as far as being bad, I think he has to make a change because you have an assistant head coach in Jerry Gray who could possibly take over. You have Ryan Nielsen who could possibly take over. So you have everything in place, but the only reason why I would not fire Arthur Smith because after you get those guys out there, who gonna call plays? Dave Ragone can't call plays.
We know that.
So
that's true, man. So chat, man. If you guys have anything for young Daniel Flick here, man, just drop it here, man. We got about 3 more minutes left, man. So hopefully, man, we go into Sunday, obviously with the victory, and it just boosts the Falcons, morale and confidence going into the bye. I know Coach Smith said that he's going to evaluate all positions and whatnot. Hopefully he makes some tweaks offensively. I would say, scheme Scotty Miller in a little bit more into this playbook. I mean, he is the fastest guy on the team. Find ways to get Van Jefferson in space. He's a burner himself. The only thing with him is, he has the ability to drop the ball as we've seen in the past. But definitely, try to scheme these playmakers in a little bit more. Find better ways to incorporate Kyle Pitts and Bijan. If those two are your focal points on offense, build around them so everybody else can also eat and succeed within this offense. And defensively, man, I would say flirt with the idea of putting Calais Campbell a little bit more on the inside. I know that he was brought here to play on the outside. He stated before that he enjoys playing on the outside, but I just think it's major dividends when you put him in the middle, pairing him with David Onyemata. Contavious Street, although undersized at the defensive tackle position, can play that big defensive end spot. So there's some flexibility. There's some flexibility within the defense. So, I just want to see the Falcons just get this shit back right and let's just stop, steamrolling some wins, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, this is the perfect game, man, for them to bounce back because, as you said, with the defensive line, you got to think about Zach Harrison as well. So they're putting size up on the line and they're filling the spot where Grady left, but they just still missing that enforcer. But this is the game against a lackluster offensive line that I think can give them the confidence going forward. Uh, being a strong defense. So defense is going to have to win this game, man. And one thing that I would like to see, and I'm gonna just tell y'all right off top, if AJ Terrell get a pick six, that would change everything.
Man, that'll be delightful.
True, very true. All right, man. So we got we're just about done here tonight, man. Daniel, we thank you so much, man. It's been a while. I think the last time you came on was like early March or something like that, man. So it's great to have you back on, chopping it up with us, man. If you care to, please let the folks know where they can find you, your socials, and let them know what you've been up to lately, man.
Sure. Yeah. No. I'm happy to hop on whenever. It's been too long.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Again, happy to slide by. Twitter by Daniel Flick. Yeah, I changed it recently by Daniel Flick.
Okay.
And then you can find all my articles on si.com/NFL/Falcons, or just search up Atlanta Falcons Sports Illustrated. I write stuff just about every single day. If I don't, my editors are not very pleased. So, that's routine. So, I tend to vary. Sometimes I'll pump out stuff. A lot of times my articles end up being pretty lengthy because I tend to explore pretty deep into the topic that I write about. So I try to keep the quality there with the quantity. So, as always, appreciate you guys and shout out to everybody that swung through and watched.
Definitely, man. We definitely we love reading your articles, man. Very insightful, very great takes, man.
Thanks,
brilliant mind, man. So we definitely appreciate what you do for Sports Illustrated. Smitty, any parting words before we get out of here, man?
I ain't got no parting words, man. I'm gonna keep it simple today. Y'all know where to find me, man, on YouTube and Spotify, Smitty Sports Machine. Find me on Twitter, where I'm always keeping the party going and keep the laughing going. I'm always putting up crazy posts. Y'all go check me out on Twitter at FatBoySlam_21. That's up under next to my name on the screen. I'm gonna keep it simple. I already done got in trouble this week with that short. So keep it simple, man.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, man. You already know, man. A1 Forever Sports on YouTube. On Twitter, you can find me A1 Rock, A1 Forever on Instagram, The Real A1 Forever on TikTok. And you already know what we all about, man. Atlanta Falcons content. Shout out to these wonderful content creators, my boy Smitty, my boy Berto, and of course, Mr. Flick with all his articles. Man, I'm gracious to share this platform with you guys. Thank you to the chat. As always, you guys are awesome. As always, get those Saint fans out of there. I see y'all taking care of business, and I salute to you guys in the chat. And Arthur Smith, this is the only thing I got to say to you guys. Get it done.
Get it done. There it is, man.
Get it done. Get it done.
Get it done. What?
Get it
You
done.
know what? To add on to that, get it done and stop bullshitting.
Stop.
There it is. All right, everybody, man. Well, this is your boy Berto, your host of the 95 North Falcons Talk Show. That's the platform on YouTube. You can also find me on Bleacher Report every other Sunday and every Monday doing post-game reaction or whatever my producer tells me to talk about on Mondays. I'm on there chopping it up and talking some bullshit too, man, having fun. Appreciate that. And you can also find me on Twitter under RI Falcons, another platform I use to interact with the fans and everybody that watches the show. Thank you to everybody that tuned in tonight. Thank you for you guys for supporting us like you always do. This show has been tremendous. Again, shout out to Daniel Flick for coming out and spending time with us. But for your boy Berto, Smitty, Chris, and Daniel, we will catch y'all on the flip side, everybody. Peace.